Hey everyone, welcome back to Story Hive. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss an update. Let's jump into today's story. I opened up about our marriage, got pregnant, and now my family has disowned me while my husband wants a divorce. I'm a 38-year-old woman. You can call me Francine, and my husband, let's call him Ree, is 44. We got married when I was 19, just a month after giving birth to our daughter, whom we'll call Libby. Libby is now 19 years old. Almost a year later, our son, whom we'll call Craig, was born. Both kids now attend the same college, which is 5 hours away from us. Despite marrying young and with limited financial resources while raising a child, Ree and I managed quite well from the beginning. We had a wonderful life. Ree has a good job now and has always been an excellent provider, husband, and father, even during those early days. I also worked 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. We had plenty of money, owned our home, and had a decent savings. Our family was incredibly stable, and my husband, kids, and I formed an unbreakable team until I fell under the influence of a very manipulative person. It all began innocently enough. We have a beloved dog who is an integral part of our family. As I mentioned earlier, I work on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, so I'm home on Tuesdays and Thursdays. On those days, I take our dog to the park. On the days I work, about 3 months ago, while at the park, I met a man, let's call him Leonard. He's 37 years old. His dog and ours started playing together. Leonard mentioned that he had seen me there on multiple occasions with my dog, but I couldn't recall ever seeing him before. Coincidentally, we began encountering each other at the park every time I visited. With each interaction, we engaged in more conversations and became casual friends. Nothing inappropriate occurred. We simply chatted as fellow dog lovers. One evening during dinner, I mentioned my conversations with a man named Leonard from the dog park to my husband. I asked if he had ever noticed Leonard there. My husband replied that he hadn't, and I informed him that Leonard's dog had become good friends with ours. We shared a laugh about it, and the subject was dropped. Time passed, and then things between Leonard and me started to change. About 2 months ago, while chatting at the dog park, Leonard mentioned that he lived in a nearby luxury apartment complex. This complex was roughly a quarter of a mile from the dog park and about half a mile from our home. I commented on how nice the apartments looked from the outside and asked him about their interior. I mentioned that a friend of mine was considering renting there, which was true at the time. Leonard then suggested that I walk over to his apartment with my dog to take a quick look and some photos for my friend. I knew I should have politely declined, but I ended up agreeing. Once I entered his apartment, I immediately realized that I had crossed a line of appropriateness. Leonard showed me around, and I stayed for about 10 minutes, thanked him, and mentioned that I needed to head home. He then inquired if I'd be back at the park the following Tuesday. I replied affirmatively and departed. This marked the beginning of my infidelity, as I failed to inform Ree about my visit to Leonard's apartment. When I returned home that night, instead I became even more attentive to my husband, prepared a wonderful dinner, and cuddled with him on the couch until we retired to our bedroom. It was a delightful evening. The subsequent Tuesday I once again met Leonard at the park, and we conversed for nearly 2 hours. Toward the end of our discussion, I informed him that we needed to distance ourselves from our friendship. He acknowledged this, but expressed that it felt so right and that we shared an incredible chemistry. At this point, I could have retracted and put an end to things, but regrettably, I concurred with him. Things escalated rapidly from there, and the following Tuesday, I spent the afternoon with Leonard at his apartment, becoming physically intimate with him. Surprisingly, that evening I experienced minimal guilt or remorse for my actions. Instead, I felt a heightened desire and passion for my husband, and we shared a wonderful night together. Reflecting on this now, I am utterly disgusted with myself. Leonard and I continued to rendezvous at his place every Tuesday and Thursday until my D-Day this past Friday, which was almost 2 months from the day our physical relationship began. I should have realized that something was amiss with my husband 2 weeks ago when I noticed a sudden change in his behavior, but I was too ensnared in the affair to notice or perhaps to care. That's when my husband's behavior shifted. He began responding with brief answers and avoided engaging in conversation with me. He also turned down my requests for intimacy on multiple occasions and no longer initiated it himself. During this period, he started working late, often not returning home until after 8:00 p.m. He claimed that he and his colleagues were engrossed in a major presentation and that they were all having takeout meals at the office. While such significant projects did occur occasionally, it was unusual for them to persist for 2 consecutive weeks. When I questioned him about it, he simply stated that it was a highly classified project set to conclude on Friday. I accepted his explanation and felt relieved, anticipating the return of my affectionate husband. He assured me that he would make up for lost time and promised an emotionally charged weekend ahead. However, the emotions I encountered on Friday were not what I had expected. Upon arriving home, I discovered a large manila envelope taped to the door bearing my name. Upon opening it, I was utterly shocked. The envelope contained numerous pages of messages exchanged between Leonard and me on the fake Facebook accounts we had created to communicate during our affair. As I perused these messages, I burst into tears and struggled to catch my breath. It was so overwhelming that I even contemplated. I tossed the envelope to the floor and began pacing around the house, uncertain about who had left it at my door. Was it Leonard, my husband, or perhaps someone else? My questions were answered when I entered the bedroom. There, right in the middle of the bed, sat a white gift box adorned with a large red bow and a card tag bearing my name in the to line and my husband's name in the from line. Anxious and trembling, I carefully removed the bow and opened the box, only to discover divorce papers inside. At that moment, I realized my world had collapsed, and I simply lay on the bed, sobbing uncontrollably into a pillow. After about an hour of pondering my next steps and rehearsing what I would say to my husband, I called him, but he didn't answer. I persisted with my calls, but he remained unresponsive. Resorting to texting, I messaged him but received no reply. Anxiously, I paced around the house, wondering how to handle the situation. I then attempted to contact my daughter and son through both calls and texts, but they too were not answering, which struck me as unusual. Shortly thereafter, I received a text from my husband informing me that he was aware of everything, as were our children, his extended family, and as of 15 minutes ago my own parents. He explained that he had moved out and signed a lease for an apartment, adding that I would soon be hearing from his attorney. He concluded the message by saying, "Enjoy your new life with Leonard." Upon reading his message I wept for hours, pausing only to answer a call from my mother. However, instead of providing comfort, I repeatedly tried calling her back, but she refused to pick up. I reached out to my dad, and he answered. When I asked to speak with my mom, he informed me that she had nothing more to say to me at that moment. My father proceeded to express his deep disappointment and shame in me, admitting that he never imagined his own daughter could commit such an act. His words shattered me, and I couldn't hold back my tears as I repeatedly apologized. He remained silent as I continued to speak. Once I had finished pouring out my emotions, he advised me to compose myself and strive for better. I responded with a simple "Okay, Daddy, I will," and we concluded our conversation. At this juncture, I felt too humiliated to confide in my friends or another family member, so I retreated to my bedroom and cried alone. I decided it was necessary to call Leonard, both to inform him that our relationship had come to an end and to seek a comforting presence during this difficult time. When I dialed his number, he immediately questioned why I was using my phone instead of our fake Facebook accounts. I didn't mince words and told him that my husband had discovered our affair and was pursuing a divorce. Leonard's response was a simple, "Oh no, he knows." My answer was that I didn't know how he found out. Leonard inquired further, asking if my husband had stumbled upon my Facebook account. I speculated that he must have. Leonard pressed on, asking whether my husband knew who he was. I confirmed that he did, as my husband had mentioned Leonard by name in the text message I received. Leonard's reaction was a string of expletives, and he began shouting, causing his dog to start barking. After his outburst, Leonard abruptly hung up on me. Since then, I've heard nothing from him. I can't even imagine how I could possibly face my friends or family now, and I'm deeply regretful and heartbroken. After Leonard hung up, I was left alone with my thoughts and the overwhelming weight of my actions. The silence in my house was deafening. I wandered through the empty rooms, feeling like a stranger in my own home. The realization of the mess I had created and the pain I had caused was starting to sink in. I spent the rest of the night trying to make sense of everything. My mind raced through memories of better times, of the life I had before all of this began. I thought about Reed the kids and the life I had taken for granted. The guilt was suffocating, and I couldn't escape the harsh reality of what I had done. I found it hard to believe that my family had completely cut me off, that Reed was moving on, and that Leonard, the one I had sought solace in, was now a distant echo of a failed relationship. The following morning I tried to gather myself and start making some plans for what I should do next. The first step was to address the immediate crisis, handling the divorce proceedings and figuring out where I would go from here. I reached out to a lawyer to get advice on the divorce process, though I knew it would be difficult given the emotional turmoil I was in. The lawyer advised me to prepare for a challenging legal process and to focus on finding stable housing as soon as possible. I also attempted to reach out to Ree again, hoping to have a conversation about our situation. I wanted to explain myself, to apologize in person, and to try and salvage whatever was left of our relationship. Despite my efforts, Ree remained unresponsive. I could only imagine how hurt and angry he must be, and I wished there was something more I could do to make amends. As the days went by, I began to feel a deep sense of isolation. The support systems I once relied on, my family, my friends, were no longer available to me. I understood why they were reacting this way, but it didn't make it any easier to bear. I found myself trying to piece together a new life. One afternoon, I decided to visit a therapist. I needed someone to talk to, someone who could help me process my feelings and navigate through this incredibly difficult period. The therapy sessions became a crucial part of my recovery, helping me understand the reasons behind my actions and how to begin rebuilding my life. During this time, I also started working on repairing my relationship with my children. I wrote heartfelt letters to them, apologizing for the pain I had caused and expressing my deep love and regret. I knew that rebuilding their trust would be a long and arduous process, but I was determined to show them that I was willing to make things right. As I continued to work through my emotions and the legal aspects of the divorce, I also began to focus on practical matters, such as finding a new place to live and adjusting to my new reality. It was a period of intense self-reflection and change, but I hoped that by facing my mistakes head-on, I could eventually find a path to redemption and healing. The road ahead was uncertain, and the consequences of my actions were far-reaching. However, I was committed to learning from this experience and working towards becoming a better person, even if it meant starting from scratch. Each day was a step towards understanding, acceptance, and hopefully a new beginning. Thanks for tuning in to today's Reddit story. If you enjoyed it, please give this video a thumbs up and share it with your friends. And if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss out on more amazing stories. See you next time.